The number one challenge is giving the action piece to actually help someone with their health.
That's what we've done.
Health coach is doing what to do.
That's what we've done. And then we have to be very careful how we do that so the FDA doesn't come. And so we just said it's education. We teach you how your body is a system. You say?
Right.
So hold on, I got to start this thing here. Do you want to listen, Jen?
Yeah, I'll mute myself.
Okay, hold on. 33 people, not bad. Okay. All right, everyone, good morning. We're going to start in about 5 minutes at 11:10. And to everyone joining us, just want to make sure you're at the meeting. We're going to be reviewing, this is a clean and raw food certification forum. And we decided to start running these as a part of the Truth, Freedom, Health Solutions platform. But the clean food certified label and the raw food label really came out of our bottoms up movement to define a standard for what we consider clean and raw food. It's a very high standard. And so we want to invite all of you to listen to this, but we'll start at 10 after. Let me just make sure who we have here, because I want to make someone also be our co-host. Hey, Rudy, can you be our co-host? Let me see. Rudy, can you be the co-host for today? I made you co-host, Rudy.
Hello.
Hi, who's this? All right. All right, everyone, we're going to start at 10 after in 3 minutes. So I'll be right back. Thanks. What do you think, Jason? Oops, someone said I was muted. Let me repeat that again. So welcome everyone. This is Dr. Shiva. This is our Clean Food and Raw Food Certification Forum. It's part of our solutions for the Truth, Freedom, and Health movement. And so I'm going to walk you through this. A key thing that everyone wants to keep in mind is in the world of food, or frankly, in the world of standards, global standards, there's two ways that standards emerge in any field. One is the government imposes a standard. The other is standards emerge bottoms up in a particular industry. And you'll really appreciate what I'm meaning by this. So for example, many years ago, when there were different chip manufacturers, I don't mean potato chips, chip manufacturers for transistors. There were different companies involved in creating operating systems for different chips. Like there was Intel chip, the Motorola chip, Mac was doing something, Microsoft was doing something. So all of these industry guys got together and they created a bottoms-up standard for communicating with microchips, okay? For example, if you go look at your light bulb in your home, typically there's a certain certification for a light bulb. So there's an organization called the American National Standards Institute, ANSI. And believe it or not, the one good thing is many governments actually like these bottoms-up standards because it's too hard for them to administer it because they don't actually know the industry, right? USDA organic, for example, is a US national standard for organic food. That comes top down. The government decided what is organic. So in every field, science, engineering, medicine, you may look all around your home and you may find products in your home which have little standards on the back, like this product fulfills these standards. Most of those standards are coming from industry people. Now, in the area of food, most of the standards are top down. So in 2013, Whole Foods, which you may know in the United States, which is now part of Amazon, had a very interesting problem. There were some of you may be aware of this. There had been different diets that come along from every now and then, fad diets, right, or different diets. In the in the mid 90s, there was a diet that was called raw food, right? And you can go look at it. And there were various proponents of this, eat hygiene-based raw food, unprocessed, and that movement built. So by the early 2000s, that had grown to about a $300 million industry. So for example, people, you could go to supermarkets and they go, oh, this is raw, R.A.W. The problem was no one had defined what raw is, okay? So a very interesting thing took place in 2011 was that there's a product that you may know called kombucha. Kombucha is a fermented drink. And so Whole Foods had 16 different brands of kombucha, and kombucha is called a raw fermented drink, R.A.W. Well, one of those brands had a major problem. People were getting sick. And so it affected the entire kombucha category. So Whole Foods removed everything for, I think, about 12 months. Okay. So John Burns, who's the head of safety at Whole Foods, had heard about the fact that I've been on various standards committees. I came out of, the MIT Biological Engineering Department, which used to be known as the Food and Nutrition Department. And I was out in California at the time, and he asked for my help. So that resulted in a whole series of meetings, bottoms up, with consumers, stakeholders, to creating this certification. That's almost 10, 11 years ago. The key thing I want everyone to remember, this is a bottoms up certification by the people for the people. We own, when I mean we the people own this certification. And you'll find this certification on different products out there. But it's a very high standard, and I'll walk you through what that is. But we have the ability to amend this certification and expand it. So since, for example, the last forum we did was on Artisana, a company which creates raw nut butter. Very nice company started by, young entrepreneurs, and we helped them get certified. But a number of people came to us and they say, Dr. Shiva, we want to bring this certification to our local communities. So, for example, if you go get eggs, there are a lot of local egg manufacturers. How do you know those eggs are quote unquote clean and good? What are the chickens fed? We know you are what you eat. That many of these chickens are being fed soy grains right now. And 90%, 99% of the soy in the United States is genetically engineered soy, which has glyphosate in it. So that goes right into the chickens. So even though someone may be doing local meats, local farms, raw milk, what kinds of foods are they eating? So we have the ability to create a standard for raw milk, a standard but it's our standard, it's bottoms up. It's not the government imposing it. So this woman out in, I think the Midwest wants to help us do that, but we have the framework to do that. So I want you to keep that in mind that, again, this was it's a major innovation, bottoms up. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay. So let me jump right into this. So we're going to talk about ZUCARMEX. So what we did is we started opening up this certification to companies who wanted to support this high standard. So we're going to take about, let's say, 30 minutes and we'll run right through this. So let me just jump right in. So this is, again, the Clean and Raw Food Certified Forum. I'll give you a brief overview. We have a nonprofit called the International Center for Integrative Systems, which hosts this certification. We'll then talk about what is a clean and raw food certification. We'll talk about this company, ZUCARMEX's journey to getting certified. And then we'll share with you, what does it take to get certified? How much does it cost? We'll talk about how you guys can support it. And then we want a special announcement to make is that anyone on here can be part of citizens' food inspections. We can start inspecting our food. So who's going to benefit from this? Well, anyone. People can benefit, also animals who eat food. This certification can also be done for pet products, okay? Pretty much everyone. Food and dietary supplement manufacturers, farmers, restaurateurs, ingredient suppliers. So we today help certify a lot of the food and dietary supplement manufacturers, but and our certification has expanded. Last year, we added honey, which is very hard to get a standard on, but we were able to do that. Seaweeds, right? But we build these certifications as I'll share with you. So for example, and these are, I'm going to give you some household names. You may, if you're in the health food industry, so in snacks, Go Macro is a clean certified. Buchi Kombucha in beverages, Manuka Doctor, which is out of New Zealand. They just recently got certified. Ashwagandha KSM out of India. This is a global standard, by the way. Zulka Pure Cane Sugar, Artisana Raw Almond Butter, and there's many, many more. The point is, by the way, this is grown bottoms up. We do very little advertising. We're not like the non-GMO movement, which is a huge staff. The entire program is run by volunteers. It's quite incredible. So this program is housed in the International Center for Integrative Systems, which is about the power of system thinking. We have a board, we have an executive director, and there's 3 programs we run right now. We could add more. One is in innovation systems, Innovation Corp. We do the systems biology of GMOs. We've done quite a number of research papers exposing at a scientific level where the real problem with GMOs is, and then the clean and raw certification. So to those of you who have young kids between the age of 13 through 18, there's a program I started to recognize young kids who want to innovate. We select 8 kids every year. We give them money, we give them mentoring. You can go to innovationcorps.org and you can apply for a scholarship for your child, or your child can apply. But that's a program where we teach people innovation. The other thing is we have the systems biology group on the GMO project, and we were the first ones. Cytosolve was donated to this institute, and we looked at the real science of genetically engineered foods, there's always been a pro and anti-GMO debate, but we went to the heart of it and we uncovered that, for example, soy, when they genetically engineer it, what fundamentally happens is the soy plant starts producing less glutathione, which is one of nature's most important antioxidants. So we did all the analysis across 4 scientific papers. When we published our 5th one, obviously Monsanto attacked us. Joe Rogan was a part of that attack. Okay, he's a scumbag. Joe Rogan promoted the scientist out of Cornell who's in the hands of Monsanto. Many, many people said, why don't you put Dr. Shiva on? And he went into his intentional silence. But in the 5th paper, we exposed, so you see our research, that organic foods, in the case of soy, about 9.7 units of glutathione. Roundup Ready soy has 3.9, 250% reduction. So we put this up, people said, oh, this is just cytosol analysis. It's not real. It's never been validated. Well, we were very fortunate. A group in England had grown a GMO soy plant in a greenhouse, organic and GMO, and they got the same results. But we know why, the mechanisms of action. Okay? So this is what we do. The other part of our food research is, as I mentioned, we created the clean and raw standard. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So all of you, by the time you're done, you'll have hopefully a deep appreciation for how much work we've done with, frankly, no money supporting us, no big money. We do it bottoms up. I was just speaking to a friend of mine saying that everything we do is so pure and honest that the unfortunate problem with being pure and honest is that you don't want to compromise, which means you can't take money from certain people. So the only way we can do this is to do it bottoms up, which means all of you guys can support this. Otherwise, you always get compromised. So this is a very, very interesting place to be. And she was commenting, Shiva, with all the stuff you've done, you should have billions in the bank. And I said, yeah, I could have done that if I had chosen to get co-opted, but I chose not to do that. So everything we do is truly bottoms up. That's the only way out of this enslavement people feel. So this certified clean and certified raw is one of the highest standards. So I'll walk you through how we came across this. Again, to those of you who are new, I've been a systems guy all my life. I created the first email system, got a bunch of degrees at MIT in system science. I educate people all over the world on system science, and that's within our Truth, Freedom, Health program. All of you, if you made it this far, go to truthfreedomhealth.com. Get educated if you really want to understand how the world works. Otherwise, you're frankly going to be enslaved. Now, my PhD is in systems biology, which came out of the biological engineering department. Originally, that department used to be known as the Department of Food and Nutrition Science. But I have a deep interest in computational systems, medicine, and health. So as I mentioned, the bunch of products, thousands of products have gone through the certification now. So let me sort of head back to what I was sharing with you. So in 2013 in San Diego, when I was asked by John Burns to help out, I held the first forum. So we had about 30, 40 different people from all over the world show up to San Diego. Some of them were ingredient suppliers. Some of them were manufacturers of like kale chips, right? Some of them were supplement manufacturers. And we got everyone in a room and we wanted them to tell us what they thought clean and what clean food was or what raw was. Remember, there were people out there promoting a religious view of what raw food was. And that religious view is what we were trying to find and trying to find the real science. So we brought all these people together in a room and we said, tell us what you think clean and raw food is. So if the elephant represented that, everyone had their own opinion. And these were opinions, most of it not based on any real scientific or chemistry understanding. So one set of people said, oh, if you heat food over 108 degrees, it's dead. That's sort of the religion of the raw food community. Okay. Other people said, oh, clean and raw food must be vegan. Other people said that it can't be GMO, right? No genetic engineered foods. It has to be organic, and so on. So it took us about 9 months. It was like herding cats. Everyone had their opinion. Everyone was stuck in their religion. And so we used a multi-criteria decisions model, which means we took all these criterias, all these different approaches, and then we tried to hone in on the essence. And after 9 months, everyone came to agree on these 3 principles. The food had to be safe, safety. Okay. Interesting enough, prior to the standard, there were people making, let's say, food, chips. And in those facilities, I mean, most of these people are young entrepreneurs. They had rats running around. Okay. That's not a good thing. And given this area was totally unregulated, people were putting food on Whole Foods, and you didn't know where the sourcing was of the ingredients, anything. So safety became concerned because if a category people find has, let's say, rat poop in it, it affects everyone in that industry. So safety became very, very important. The second criteria was minimally processed. Minimally processed meant everyone agreed, okay, we may disagree, it's 108 degrees kill the food or 120 or 212, but they didn't want the food to be over processed, okay? Today, alternatively, if you type in the word UPF, it's called ultra processed foods, which is what Nabisco, Pepsi, all these guys make. Ultra processed foods are what are leading to obesity, et cetera. So the conclusion was it had to be minimally processed. And the last one was, when you eat this stuff, are you getting the nutrients, bioavailability? So 3 very, very powerful criteria. By the way, I'll come back to this. If you look at ancient and traditional systems of food, they were always like this. Was it produced safely, minimally processed, and was the food bioavailable? Okay? In most cultures, for example, traditional cultures, they always combine this. I'll give you an example. In India, there's a food called the idli, I-D-L-I. It's in South India. And what they do is they take rice and they put in a dal in it. It's a very small bean. They soak it in water for 3 days. They throw out the water, and I'll explain why. Then they grind it, and then they make them into these sort of flying saucer shaped looking things, and then they lightly steam them. One of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. Okay. What they've done is it's safe because you're steaming it. You have taken the food, you've let it soak in water. So for the vegetarians who think vegetarians is great, you're getting rid of the lectins and the phytic acid, and then you're fermenting it. So a fermented, high protein, high dense food that supports your microbiome. So ancient systems of food always follow these principles. So in a very weird way, we came one way back to this. So safety, minimally processed, and bioavailability is what came out of that San Diego meeting of a lot of sleepless nights, hurting all these people, to help them acknowledge that this was the reality, okay? Not some religious view of, 108 degrees and the food is dead, okay? So once we had this framework, we said, okay, let's define raw, R.A.W. Raw, real, alive, and whole. And we said was, if you produce raw, and by the way, in the raw category, the food cannot be heated over 212 degrees, which is a boiling point of water, okay? And so within this framework, we defined a scoring system, a quantitative scoring system, again, all done bottoms up by we the people. And so we said the R in real, you can have, by the way, you have to get 80 points out of 100 to be certified raw. So the real allowed you to get 50 points in 2 ways. Safe, either the food was safe or was not. If it was safe, you got 25 points. And the other criteria was non-GMO. All the ingredients in the food had to be non-genetically engineered, and you got 25 points for that. So 50 points for being safe and non-GMO. So what is safety? Well, safety is determined by control point checks. And there are various industry standards for this called HACCP, which is a way that you can track food from the time it comes off the farm to your facility, how it's processed, and the time it leaves. It's called control point checks. So we made sure a lot of these manufacturers implemented HACCP control point checks. Again, a lot of these people are young, starting little companies, making this. They have no idea of this. So we really helped them from a liability standpoint. And then non-GMO, which means it had to have, none of the ingredients here could be genetically engineered. So you got 50 points for that. So that was and then 0 or 25, okay? Then we said, okay, the concept of bioactive. How do you define that? Alive, the R-A, the A in alive meant enzymatically bioactive. And that score could be a range of 0 to 20. How do we determine that? Well, remember I said we donated CytoSolve to our nonprofit. And with CytoSolve, we were able to actually do a bioavailability calculation quantitatively. So if you look at this thing called Brad's Raw Crunchy Kale Chips, there are about 10 ingredients in here. So per this standard, we said for every ingredient in any food, you identify by molecular weight, the top 4 molecules, 3 or 4, maximum 4. So you can see here, kale has vitamin C, beta carotene, lutein, zeaxanthin. You can see chickpea miso has raffinose, stachyose, saccharotol, and so on. And for each one of these molecules, using CytoSolve, we calculate the denaturing point. What is denaturing? Without making it too complex in physical chemistry, when a molecule has structure, proteins have structure. And when you heat them to certain points, their structure changes. A simple example is if you take an egg in the morning and you put it on your frying pan, it goes from that clear looking thing to white. That's occurring because the heat is changing the structure of the protein, okay? The avidin in the egg. So when structures change, they reduce bioavailability. So in aggregate, so you have about, I don't know, 1, 2, we have 10, we have about close to 30, 40 different molecules. Using CytoSolve, we calculate the denaturing over time. I'm sorry, over temperature. So as you heat this product over time, because in this case, they make the kale chips, they put them in dehydrators, you can see how the bioavailability changes. So it starts at 100% bioavailability, and you notice it goes down to about 80% at about 130 degrees temperature, and then it stays flat from 130 to roughly about 160, then it drops again, and so on. So this is the reality of it. So most of the religious people would say, oh my God, after 108, the food is dead. No, it's about 80%. It's still quite active. So in this case, this company was able to use a little bit slightly higher temperature dehydrators and increase their production without significantly hurting quality, but they were still at 80% bioavailability because their dehydrators were at 140%. So they have to reveal all this information. So we say, okay, you get 80% and you get 20 points. So they got 16 points. So 16 plus 50 would be 66. So they're still not at 80. And by the way, to those of you who are new, I'll play a little video before I end on CytoSolve. But we've used CytoSolve to actually discover products from nature, like MV25 is a product, and I'll come back to that, where we literally use CytoSolve to find 2 very powerful ingredients that are highly bioavailable. That one comes from chamomile, the other comes from bitter orange. When you combine them the right way, it affects these combinations that really has a very powerful effect on pain and inflammation. So CytoSolve has many powerful capabilities. And we just did a CytoSolve forum last Tuesday, which you guys may want to go check out. So CytoSolve was donated to the center so we could really understand bioavailability. The W in raw whole represents 2 other criteria, organic and nutrient density. So remember, there are certain ingredients and products that are grown in nature that you can't even get organic certification because they're like wildflowers growing in the wild, right? So we wanted to not nix people if they were doing the right thing. So organic, again, is a range, 0 to 20 by weight. Nutrient density, we use the Andy score. So that people get 30 points for that. So that's how you get the 80 or above, all right? So that became raw. And then in 2013, we then presented this at one of the big expos where we had hundreds of people come because you have to do what's called a public hearing. When you're creating a bottoms-up standard, you have to make it accessible for everyone to critique it. So every once a year, we do a major public hearing. Any one of you can come. You can say, oh, I don't like this. I like this. And we have to record it. We have to go back to the standards committee. So it's fully transparent. You don't have the chance to do this when the government does this, okay? But we do. So when we presented this at one of the big conferences called Expo West, where 70,000 people from all over the world show up, people loved it. But they said, I heat my products above 212. So we created a sister standard called C.L.E.A.N, Conscious Living, Ethical, Active, and Nutritious, C.L.E.A.N. Very similar standard, but the conscious denotes safety, the live denotes organic, the ethical denotes non-GMO, the active denotes bioavailability, and nutritious use the Andy score. So people are very excited, and that's resulted in our standard. And that's, by the way, let me just stop here a second. I just want to let you guys know, if you guys want to go noodle on your own, if you go to the website, cleanfoodcertified.org, I'll take you there. You will see everything we made is transparent. When we do a bottoms-up standard, we don't hide anything. Everything is here. You go to the site. Let me go to the home here, page here. You'll see on this page, you can find everything having to do with the standard. You can go to the actual standards page right here where it says the standards, and you'll see the actual document here, which has the actual standard in it. Let me bring it up. Okay, I'm going to have to bring this up in the I want to share this standard with you. So if you go up, you'll find the actual, just to give you the extensive nature of this document. So this is the standards document, okay? And you'll actually find who's on the committee. You'll find the details of the standard. This is like the handbook that's used to apply the standard to different food categories. If you have a new food category like eggs, we don't have eggs. We would have to add that. We would define the standard, the process, et cetera. And then we're actually in the middle of doing that. There's also if you wanted to do raw milk, which we don't do, we just added honey. But guess what? This is our standard, we the people standard. Okay. So this is that document that you guys will find. So anyway, just want to let you know there's quite a bit of work that goes into these standards to maintain them and keep them alive. So let's talk about ZUCARMEX, because what we wanted to do is make it interesting for you guys. We wanted to feature one of our customers. So ZUCARMEX is a leading producer of, they do sugar, brown sugar in the United States. It's lightly processed. It's certified clean since 2019. They retain traces of minerals such as calcium, iron, potassium, magnesium from the original sugarcane plant. And they have various types. Zulka is a brand. They have the brown sugar, the powdered sugar, but pure cane. But the key thing is their processing. So the problem is, in the world right now, you have grifters on the internet who try to make everything on or off, pro or anti. They never talk about processing. And let me just make a couple points about this. And this is a problem with the whole world of diet. No one talks about how the food was actually made. So for example, sprouting stuff is a processing of food. Fermenting stuff is another process. Cooking stuff is another process. Dehydrating food. There's many, many ways to process food. The processing of food affects the nutrient profile of the ingredients in that food, okay, and the molecular structure. So when people say, "Oh, eat this, it's good for you," well, it's a much more complicated problem. How was it processed? Where did it come from? What's the sourcing? Okay, so with the clean and raw food, that's what we're trying to capture. From where was it created to how did it end up on your table? So I just want to mention this thing. So for example, I mentioned this many times. If you take a kidney bean, you know, it's hard. And people say, "Oh, I'm going to sprout it. I'm a raw food as well." If you eat a raw sprouted kidney bean, it can actually kill you. Okay. Doesn't mean everything sprouted and raw is good for you. Okay. You eat too much spinach, you're going to get solanine in your body. You eat too much cooked greens, you're going to get oxalic acid for certain people. You're going to get kidney stones. So people typically get caught in these religious areas. This is why traditional foods were very particular how a food was actually processed, right? Just want to remind you of that. So in this case, these guys, just to give you the background of this, so they don't do any genetic modification, and and they eliminate any concern about GMO products that could have unknown long-term effects. They also support practices that are more sustainable, less reliant on chemical pesticides, herbicides, which is better for the environment. They do very minimal processing, okay? And this is free from common additives. Typically, when you get, it's not it's, sugar. By the way, if you go back in the 1920s, people ate sugar, they ate lots of sugar, and you didn't have this obesity issue. What we forget is we have ultra processed stuff where they're adding additives to these things. The additives, the adjuvants that they add are doing other reactions in your body, which are affecting hormones. And we need to be aware of that. So they got a score on the conscious safety, they got a full 25. On the live, they got 15 organic. On the ethical, they got a full score of 25. On the active, they got a score of 14 out of 20. And then on the nutritional density, they had a score of 10, okay? So, because they have lots of minerals in this product. So they got a score of 89. So that's why they were certified clean. They're not certified raw because they do some heating, okay? So they have now been certified since 2019, last 5 years, on 3 products. You can find them in all the major health food stores. Their scores range from 89 for the 3 products. They've met the conscious, ethical, and nutritious criteria with top scores, with the nutrient density of ingredients, and they met the Alive score with a bioavailability of 89%. So what does it cost to get clean food certified? What does it cost to do this? It's a good question. When we did, and let me explain this. So when we started this, we did it, no one in the organization who does this gets paid anything. Everyone does it as volunteers. So we did this actually to build a bottoms-up movement for clean and raw food. So what we discovered was that we figured out a way to let anyone, based on the size of their company, to get certified. Some companies were making, only $10,000 in revenue for a year. Others were making 10 million. And so we figured out a way to support all of these companies where we scaled the cost based on the size of the company. And then when we took in a product, we looked at typically how many ingredients they had in that product, okay? So right on the website, I can go to the website, right? Let me go to the website. Again, we made everything transparent. So if you go to the Clean Food website, there's a calculator right there, okay? Let me go to it here. All right, so if you go to the website here, you'll find that we have a calculator up on that website, okay? And so you type, you can put in your email, right? And you basically calculate, and we send this to you, but you can put how many sites is a product being produced, the number of products, how many unique ingredients, and the size of the company. To give you an idea, a typical company is producing a single product, is doing about 10 to 20,000 in revenue. They're not going to pay more than $100 to get certified. Compared to USDA organic, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars. We made this a fraction of the cost. So the larger the company, they're actually supporting this larger movement. So that's what we've done. So anyone can afford this. People always say you guys are not charging enough, which we probably are not, but we designed this to make sure the large range of companies could get certified. So we look at how many manufacturing sites they have. That's one axis. How many unique ingredients. So let's say a company is making a energy bar product that has, let's say, cashews, honey, and oats. Let's say the next product they have has almonds, honey, and oats, and the next product has sesame seeds, honey, and oats. I'm just making this up. So we could theoretically charge them for each product, and by the different number of SKUs, do they sell the 1 ounce one versus 10 ounce? We don't do that. We just take the total unique number of ingredients. In that case, that would be 5 ingredients, right? Unique. So we make it very affordable because we only want to charge them for the effort that it takes, which is to do the CytoSolve analysis on those ingredients. And so it's become extremely affordable to everyone to do this. Just want to make sure someone's writing me a question here. We've made it extremely affordable for everyone. And you guys can go on the calculator and see that. So let me finish up by saying how you guys can be part of this, how you can help. Number one, you can donate to the center. Go to International Center for Integrative Systems. Maybe Crystal or someone can give the website. You can get your products clean and raw certified. Some of you may be manufacturers. You can become an affiliate. You can refer these clean and raw food supplement manufacturers. You can buy CytoSolve products. You can fund the research. And the other thing is you can join the movement for Truth, Freedom, Health. You can donate right to the center, go right to the website, donate. We have t-shirts you can get. Let others know about this. If you want to know more about this and you have a product, you have an idea, I'm going to put this link up there. You guys can literally set up a meeting with one of us and we'll walk you through this, okay? I'm going to put it right up in the chat. Please be mindful that we can have a meeting on this issue that you guys can all decide, hey, I want to help a particular company, or I have an idea. We want to make it accessible to all of you that you guys can be part of this. So I'm just going to, so that's the link for that. If you want to set up a meeting, if you want to support the International Center for Integrative Systems, you go to integrativesystems.org. You can go up there. And then obviously you can, if you want to set up a meeting, if you want to know more, we can run through in greater detail what we're talking about, okay? Let me finish by a couple things. We have an affiliate program where you yourself can become an affiliate. Maybe you have people locally who are running really great companies, small manufacturers, and they want to get certified. You can support the spreading of this by introducing those people. You can also buy products from CytoSolve. And I'll play this video for you towards the end. You may have already seen it, but CytoSolve is a very powerful product that came out of our work. If you guys want to know more about it, you can go to mb25.life. We also created a whole food product from CytoSolve for pet health, and you can go to vashiva.com and get that. And you can also help fund research. Everything we're doing is now we're making the CytoSolve technology available to all of you. Indigenous medicines are ultimately the source of, these people have already figured it all out. We're sort of going in one big stupid circle chasing our tail when it comes to food. And the elite liberal institutions, which claim that they're into diversity and fighting racism, they're not, because they all poo-poo indigenous medicines. They support big pharma. So our goal is we're using CytoSolve to validate these ancient practices like we just did here with clean and raw. We eliminate the need for animal testing. There's no reason to kill animals. CytoSolve, none of the stuff involved animal testing. We recognize that science is highly incestuous. So we never get the truth coming out in any major area because academia, the publishers, the big pharma guys, big government, and now you can put the big grifters are all part of this. So you can also donate to the CytoSolve Open Science Institute. And then finally, when you donate to us, we give you many ways that you can learn and advance yourself. So there we go. So if you want to join Truth, Freedom, Health, it's a very fundamental way you can support us. Go to truthfreedomhealth.com, learn the systems approach. You can come to our open houses. We do them every Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. And then we also have a very powerful capability for those of you who want to become systems health educators. Come to our tutorials that we do Friday at 11 a.m. We're creating an army of professional people who are systems health educators. Any doctor should go through this, every medical professional, anyone who, and you don't have to be a doctor or medical professional. And our slogan is think, fight, and heal. And these are the solutions we have in addition to the Clean Food Program. finally, we want to let people know that you yourself can become a citizens food inspector. If you want to help create a new standard in your local area, you can contact us. So let's go to Q&A. Let me stop the share. So anyway, that took us around 40 minutes. Let me, thanks, Crystal. Crystal's putting up those. Oh, thanks. I'm going to make Crystal. Where's Crystal here? I want to make Crystal. Crystal, if you can put all those links into everyone, I'd appreciate it. But I didn't make you. I'm going to make Crystal a co-host. Thanks, Crystal. If you can just share the links to everyone. All right. Any questions? So questions on how you can support this research, any questions on the standard? So you, by the way you, because I can't see everyone's hand raised, on the bottom, there's a thing called reactions. Click on that and it lets you raise hand. Any questions on this? So by the way, if you don't know how to use Zoom, if you move your cursor down or you're on your iPhone, this little smiley face will come up called reactions. Click on that and you'll see a thing called raise hand. Can you raise your hand? Gregory, are you trying to raise your hand? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Gregory. You need to unmute now.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My question regards the effect of microwaving on the microbiability. I would think that would be a huge, having a huge impact on the viability. And I wondered if that's something that should be like included in a label of what the effect microwaving will have on the product.
Yeah, I would say that's a different thing, Gregory. But if you're, remember these, I mean, that's like saying what would happen if they took the whatever product they get and they heated it in an oven, right? What microwaving does is the water molecule, if you go to basic chemistry, has what's called a dipole. Oxygen has a highly negative charge, and the two hydrogen atoms have a very positive charge. So if you look at a water molecule from a distance, it's literally a magnet. It's got a positive side and a negative side. And what microwaving does is they send a wave through at a very high frequency, and that frequency is literally flipping the water molecule very rapidly. So remember, a food that doesn't have water, you can't microwave it. It has to have some amount of water. So the water molecule is being spun, flipped very, very fast. And the rotational friction of that is what's heating the food. That's what's actually going on with the microwave. I haven't had a chance to study other things, but the foods that we deal with, they have to disclose to us the process that they did. So how they heated it, we sign non-disclosures with them, and they have to literally disclose the actual process. So none of these foods are microwaved as far as I know, right? From what they disclose to us. And they have to tell us the processing they have to do. Now, I mean, yeah, we could tell them that, but we should probably tell them other things. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I think the label would become pretty long, Gary. But I could do a video on microwaving. You know, I just quickly explained it. What does microwaving do? There's a whole, you know, there's now induction heating, right? Where you're using a magnet to heat things, right? So human beings are always trying to find ways to speed up our lives to do certain things. There's always been a question about even heating foods, right? How high should you even heat a food? In most traditional cultures, they did slow cooking, right? If you went into most traditional homes, they'd always have a big crock pot with a bone in there with some soup, very slow cooking. We don't do that anymore, right? Or fermented foods, which is another type of processing. So again, a lot of this was done, Gregory, for to keeping the bioavailability of the food, to make sure that you didn't overheat it, overcook it. But yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for that comment. Thank you. Ari Ikeji, go ahead, Ari.
Hi, Dr. Shiva. So I have a question. You know, one of the options, I remember the last time you had the Zoom there was a guy who wanted to do a research on, I believe, on some ingredients from Africa. And I'm just wondering, people who
Yeah.
want to do this kind of research, what kind of backgrounds you need to have,
Yeah,
and
so
what are the process?
yeah, so what Ari's talking about, just to summarize, we're talking about CytoSolve. So what we've done is, because of the very powerful nature of CytoSolve, we are doing a couple of things, Ari. We are, just to sort of give you guys an update, we've been doing CytoSolve for 16 years. We've helped many companies use it, but we wanted to make CytoSolve open to the public. What Ari's bringing about is, we had a guy from Africa who said, wow, I want to do this, to look at, there are apparently some very powerful foods in Africa, fruits and vegetables and herbs, that when you mix them together, they have powerful effects. These are indigenous herbs. So we did a follow-up with him, Ari, and it was interesting. So his background is not in any field. He's very interested in this. So first of all, I would say the number one interest is, are you interested? Okay, are you passionate, right? Because what we do, Ari, is when people have that interest, we will do all the everything on the back end, right? But he's going to help us find the particular ingredients, find some of these formulations, and then share that with us. So he's going to be our go-between, because he's interested in, he's a doer, he wants to make things happen. And to that extent, how much ever people want to learn, we're going to educate them. So I would say that it's really more interest, Ari. I have this view about knowledge. I don't, if you look at the difference between us and a monkey, it's only a few base pair differences. So I don't think there's that much difference between two humans, and this may be radical. It depends on your will to learn and your attitude. So people think, oh, what experience? I don't have that experience. Well, we'll teach you chemistry if you want to learn. We'll teach you some computational stuff, right? So that's what's unique about what we're doing. We're here to do this bottoms up stuff. Now, it takes quite a bit of our effort. We have to deal with all sorts of dumb questions, and we have to help people, and we're pretty patient. We do that. But I would say, Ari, the number one thing is, do people have an interest? If anything, do they have an entrepreneurial interest, Ari? Do they want to make things happen? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. We have another woman who wants to use this in a very different way. She has found that there are certain toxins that come out of natural gas compression stations. And she wants to use CytoSolve to figure out what combinations are doing that to her son or daughter, right? Right. Having said that, let me I promise you guys, before I end, I'll play you sort of how we figured out CytoSolve. So that's an example where we went end to end and we discovered our own combination of these two compounds that have powerful effects of pain and inflammation. But our view is, to Ari's question, there are many indigenous things out there that we know work. Ari, in Japan, they have natto, right? Which is a blood thinner, okay? Well, could we create a alternative to Plavix? Or what's that other, most 70-plus-year-olds, the doctors put them on blood thinners, okay? What natto, right?
Yeah, the interesting story with natto is that, the Japan Airlines, they used to serve the dried version of natto because when you sit, on a long flight, people tend to develop they stopped. I don't know why they stopped. But
it's unfortunate. So many of these traditional cultures, Japanese culture, Indian culture, Celtic culture, Native American, they all have these foods over thousands of years they figured out. They're like innovations. And what we want to do with CytoSolve is validate those, publish them. And that's how we stick it to big pharma. And that's what we're doing. But, we're limited in resource, but it took me a long time to create this technology. And so all of you guys have a chance. You can't say, well, what can I do? Well, you can do something. If you find people, or if you want to do stuff, we have this research platform to do that. We've published now many papers in the leading journals, so no one can discount us. We've sort of checkmated the establishment in that sense.
Yeah, and in Japan, there is like the Chinese it comes from the Chinese medicine, the Kampo medicine,
Yeah.
which is actually integrated into regular treatments. It's widely accepted and used, actually.
Right.
And I think I think what happened actually after the COVID, because the COVID really pushed people over the limits, and so people are now pushing back, and so there are, I think people are putting in much more efforts into scientific, exactly what you're doing to find evidence of these natural medicines.
Yeah, so with Cytosolve, we are finding the combinations, the synergy of how those work. So to me, it'd be very interesting. Here's a project, Ari. Imagine taking natto, a couple of other ingredients we know, and creating a new thing as people grow older that's an alternative to these medications for hypertension. You say?
Right. Another thing is that I don't remember if we spoke about miso, because I work with miso.
Yep.
And so, there was this thing about Chernobyl. And so I actually learned the history of this, because I've always heard that in Europe, they received a lot of miso after the incident. Right. And then actually the real story is that when this happened, because in Japan, all the miso makers know that is very, very anti-radiation.
Yep.
So they went from prefecture to prefecture to solicit miso manufacturers to donate to Europe the quantities of miso. What happened after the Fukushima, which is interesting, because in Japan, the miso makers are not allowed to advertise all of these health benefits. So there was no movement that was similar that happened after the Chernobyl for the Fukushima, which is like, it's happening in your own country and people are not doing anything about it, which is, I think it's has to do with pharmaceutical industries, but they're not allowed to publicize. Like, they're not allowed to speak openly. So like I feel that my mission, because I make miso, actually, I make them in France and I sell them, is to start becoming more vocal about it, right? Because like the miso is like antioxidant, anti-cancer. It's like somebody who eats 3 times per day the soup of miso, you can reduce the breast cancer by 40%. I mean, there's so much scientific evidence that we have, right? And it's just not being, what do you call? It's not being spread.
Yeah, so what happens is there's clinical evidence and then there's mechanistic evidence, okay? Clinical is, I take miso, so there's lots of clinical, I take miso and it does this, input, output. What Cytosolve does, Aries, figures out why, okay?
Okay.
Mechanisms. And that provides the highest level of evidence, you say? So miso could be an area we could look at, okay? For example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
but there's so many things to do.
Anyway, let me take a couple other people's questions. But yeah, we should do it. I think we have a meeting set up, right?
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow. Okay, great. So let's go over to Rose CS. Rose, how are you? Good to see you again. And then we'll go to Rudy.
Hi.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for you. For those who are backyard farmers and want to sell like their eggs on roadside stands, would that be a good idea to get certified?
I'm saying it hasn't happened, but think about this. Imagine we as people, we created we have to create what's called the certification methodology. We bring it to the standards committee, we do a public hearing, and then we would have a clean and raw food for eggs, Rose. We can do that. That's what, I forget her name. She wants to do in Ohio. So just completely change your paradigm. And that's why I want to let everyone know, all of you guys get involved in truthfreedomhealth.com, because we have created a movement that not only exposes the nonsense of what's going on, but gives people the opportunity to deliver solutions. So Rose, with this standard, were we to create it, which we can, we have the framework now, right? You could go to your local people who are selling eggs, right? There may be 5 local egg farmers. You follow what I'm saying? How do you know that those eggs are truly, let's say, nutrient dense? You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So with this standard, we would set up, I'm just giving you sort of a protocol that would be, so for eggs, it would be, we'd go endpoint to endpoint. How were the chickens raised? What feed are they given? Right? How often, there's a set of points, okay? Points. And those would become the standard. And then we would bring it to a public hearing, people would support it. And then we now have a standard. So Rose, you could go to a lot of the local egg farmers. You could say, hey, look, how would you like to get C.L.E.A.N certified, right?
Mhm.
And here's a standard. If you do, they can probably charge a little more because people want to know, is this egg really, good? You see what I'm saying? Versus a
Right.
guy who's
Right.
maybe feeding his chickens soy and with pesticides in it. And so you're buying from your local egg farmer, but is it really better? You see what I'm saying? So we could do
Yes. Okay,
yes.
so we still have to set up the standards. We haven't done that yet.
Yes, but we have the
Okay.
framework to do that. You see, because we have this framework, it's easy for us to add new things to it. You say?
Okay, so you just need a demand for that.
No, or we
For
we
the
go set up the
standard.
standard. You guys can go market it. It takes us it'll take us a couple months to define the standard. What are the protocol? Like with honey, we didn't have a standard for honey until about a year ago. But we noticed the standard for honey is very difficult because the USDA organic standard is wherever the hive is, 3 miles around the hive, there can't be any pesticides. Okay. But
Mhm.
we were finding that there was evidence that even though there were companies that were getting the USDA organic, and there was another company who had wild honey farms, but they could not get the USDA organic because they couldn't validate the pesticide issue. However, the standard we came up with is people could actually go do the chemical analysis of their honey. And many of these honeys were better than the USDA organic, you see? So we
Mhm.
created a new standard which goes even beyond USDA organic, but it's
Oh, I
bottoms up.
see.
Okay.
I
So,
see.
so what I'm saying is this is what's so powerful. It took us 10 years, but we have our own bottoms up standard. So we can also
Okay.
do this for raw milk if we want. Okay.
Because
People are
what
buying.
happened, yeah, what happened was we were selling eggs and we, did all the best things you could do for raising chickens. And we were selling a roadside stand, and all of a sudden people started spreading the word how great our eggs were. And we had such a demand, we could not supply all the eggs for
Yeah.
these people.
Right.
But we weren't charging any more than, you'd buy in a grocery store because we didn't have any certification to prove anything.
That's what I'm trying to say. So think
Mhm.
about everyone on this call. All of you guys become local egg certifiers. And that's by the people for the people. The mindset we're trying to get people out of Rose. Rose, by the way, is doing amazing work collecting signatures for us. People will hear the solutions we have, and then they'll go back to their bedrooms and say, well, what can we do? Well, you can do something right now. We can be part of because we have this framework. If we didn't have this, we couldn't do this. So Rose, you could literally be part of, if you looked at how you brought up your chickens, and there's a couple of other women who want to do this. We define the standard, and then we put it out. We have to do a public hearing. Everyone gets to participate. We have to announce it. We then take it out to the standards committee, and that becomes the new standard. You say, our C.L.E.A.N standard for eggs. Then you could go to your local farmers and say, look, you can charge, maybe even $8 a dozen. You say a little more. And that's all
Okay.
going to the farmer versus going to all the middlemen, Amazon, well, else in between.
Yeah, well, count me in. I'm willing to do what I have to get that
Right.
going.
So yeah, so if you did it, we should just set up some time with me, you, and our science team, and we'll do that. Okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Rudy, go ahead. Rudy from Costa Rica. Oops, go ahead, Rudy. Where did Rudy
Good.
go?
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
right here.
Yep.
Is my audio okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning. I'm Rudy. I'm a coffee producer in Costa Rica, and I don't have a question. I wanted to do a comment. I'm going to try to be brief. Um, I'm a fourth generation coffee producer, and we produce coffee using a lot of the wisdom from my great grandfather and my grandmother. And we've looked into some organic and distinguishing uh, labels for coffee since we're doing some things, and it's all top down, you know, and so it caters to very large centralized companies and it includes things that really don't matter to the quality of the food, the nutritional content of food, and it changes over time. So right now there's a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which for a small farmer like me doesn't, I can't make any changes. And we're going to get the workers that come to us. It's also very large, very bureaucratic, and it has more to do with who you know and are you good about filling out forms than really what's happening on the ground. And so it's very nice to have a decentralized bottoms movement where small farmers like myself can find other small farmers, and we can really um, talk to people like Dr.SHIVA and people who have a high understanding of systems and say, what are the really important things for coffee production to make it raw and to make it clean. So that was one of the comments that I had. The second comment.
So Rudy, right there, just
Yep.
1 second.
Yep. Yeah, sure.
So we don't have a standard for coffee right now. You say that
Of course not.
ingredient.
Yep.
So we
Mhm.
could develop that standard because we have this framework, right? If you didn't have this framework, there's no way
Exactly.
we could do this. But with this framework, we could literally sit down, say, okay, what is the endpoint to endpoint, what we define truly clean coffee, right? Okay, organic, this, right? And that
Right.
has some standards. And just like we did for honey. And then we apply that to your farm as a POC, right? Proof of concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we rolled that out globally. And when people go, coffee is one of the most drank beverages in the world, right? Next to probably Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah.
But which are on the other extreme, right? But if we could do that, it's a standard by the people for the people. It doesn't exist. But I just want to let you know that would be the next step, Rudy, to actually do this, over the next 90 days.
And that's the thing, having a framework, right? Instead of me just coming out with some parameters. And then the second thing is, we do this proof of concept, and like you said, every year we meet, and other coffee producers can come and say, well, I think this is missing,
right?
And that can be added.
And you raise the standard, you see? So
yep, exactly.
That's what happens, right? The reality is we, the people, are concerned about our food. They're not concerned about our food. So this is why this food affects everyone. The standard is so revolutionary because we own it. And it's up to us to help grow this and advance it. And you rarely get a chance like this to certify for us to be the citizens who are supporting this. No different like the citizen science stuff we're doing with Cytosolve, no different than Truth Freedom Health, where you get to be, you get trained to be a leader, an activist in a serious way using system science. So go ahead, Rudy. I have about 2 more minutes. Any other questions?
I had just a quick comment.
Another comment. Yeah.
I just had a quick comment. Is that the wisdom of our forefathers is incredibly important. I read Dr. Gundry's book about the plant paradox, and he mentions how legumes, things like lentils and black beans, are terrible for your body and should not be eaten. And yet in my family, we've eaten that. It's a staple of our food, and it has to do with how we prepare it.
Exactly.
Without any technology, right? There's no book, there's no anything. We have to wash our legumes in a certain way so many times. Then we have to cook it in a certain way. And then after that, you never eat the legumes on the first cook. You always go back and cook it the second day. And, you've heard of refried beans, obviously, very Latin American dish. And then they're safe. And so we have to, before we lose this knowledge, we have to go back and especially, in foods, what is still there so we don't lose this knowledge.
Yeah, Rudy, that's why in the Systems Health program, we have those kinds of things mapped out, you see? So what's happened is that's why you have these reductionist idiots like Gundry, I'm sorry, okay? Because he's trying to sell a reductionist solution. So this is good, this is bad, don't eat this, don't eat that. I mean, the Incans had learned how to do very particular mixtures of particular, types of corn with particular types of grains to really do high quality protein with particular processing. They were really chemical engineers. The ancient Siddhars do this. So there's a lot of knowledge that's there. The unfortunate thing is the world of health. What's happened is everyone, including the alternative health field, they're getting as bad as the big pharma guys, because everything is about do this, don't do this, sell this particular diet book. The reality is there's infinite ways to get healthy. And what we've done at Systems Health is we've cracked the code on that and understood these ancient principles and integrated with engineering science and created a tool called Your Body, Your System. And then we're creating Systems Health educators, because when we gave away the tool, Rudy, you notice no one used it. It was like giving I hate to say this, an ultrasound machine to people like monkeys, So we've had to take a step back and not be as generous and say, okay, we're going to create a group of now Systems Health educators who'll become our front line to go educate people. So the problem is people are looking for quick fixes. And the opportunity is there's not a quick fix. You have to put a little bit of effort to understand principles. And so that's where we're at in everything. In everything, people are looking for quick fixes. They don't want to put the effort in to really figure out how to win by getting a little bit of education, getting off the plantation, no pun intended. Rudy, anything else? So Rudy, I would say one action step is we should define that, for coffee.
For coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like that, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Evan Samuel and then Alden Penner. Evan, go ahead. And Percy.
Hello, Dr. Shiva.
One second. Percy Mo says he's got a question. If you have a question, you simply click on the reactions button at the bottom or post it in the chat. Go ahead, Evan.
My girlfriend has seizures induced by stress, and I've noticed by giving her magnesium, it's reduced it by 50%, and the intensity of the seizures has dropped. So I don't know if there's any scientific proof that magnesium works, but it works for her.
Yeah, so what we did, Evan, is we had a project that we just finished up, a 3-year project on anxiety. She's in Indian medicine, they call it a vata disturbance, okay? So transport disturbance. And so we have mapped out close to about 102 things that support that. Well, magnesium obviously being one of them, okay? And there are a bunch of other things we can combine. So we did 3 years of work. We mapped out the pathways. We're about to start doing combinations. So again, that's an area people want to support and be part of. They can help. But yeah, magnesium is very, very powerful. The magnesium glycinate has some even more better bioavailability properties. You may want to check that out.
Well, what I've been giving her it's called trace minerals. And so it has magnesium and potassium, some other trace minerals, but it seems to work.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of these deficiencies are from minerals are the ground base to even build vitamins. All right, Evan, thank you for sharing. Let's go over to Alden and then we'll finish up with Percy. Go ahead, Alden.
Hi, Dr. Shiva. Hi, Rudy. Hi, everybody. I have a question I've been meaning to ask you for a while, actually relating to coffee and caffeine in general, just because I've been reading a lot of material based on this book called Caffeine Blues that sort of mentions that it affects the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus in a pretty dramatic way. And I just wanted to trouble that question and ask whether you've done a systems analysis of that at all. And also, isn't an ultrasound actually an X-ray?
Okay, you're asking 2 different questions. So first of all, when we say coffee, right, and caffeine, they're 2 different things, right? That's like saying cannabis and THC. So we have to be very specific about the language here. Coffee, green tea, tea, these have caffeine in it, but they're modulated by other ingredients. Does that make sense, Alden? So caffeine, obviously by itself, probably has some, those effects. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but we have looked at caffeine's effects on gut-brain health. But we need to understand, like when people say, oh, cannabis is great. Well, what are you talking about? Do you mean cannabis, the 180 molecules, or are you talking about extracts of THC? Okay, which really screw you up and can cause schizophrenia in people and cause psychosis. So that's why we have to distinguish between the single compound or the motley of things that caffeine is embedded in. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And lastly, to talk about ultrasound, what ultrasound is not, so ultrasound is actually an ultrasonic wave, which is sent, it's like an X-ray, but the wave frequency is very different than X-ray. So fundamentally, the nature of the wave is different. One is in the electromagnetic spectrum, and the other is in the sound spectrum, okay? So, but they're different ways that you can do imaging. Ultrasonics has been used for years. For example, they use ultrasonics to break up kidney stones. The reality is there was some research on many, many years ago on when you use ultrasound, that it can potentially cause cavitation in the body. So anyway, I haven't had a chance to explore that, but yes, ultrasound is an imaging technique, but it's not the same as X-ray. All right, talk to Evan. Percy, go ahead. Percy Mo from Motech Productions, Motech Produce. Go ahead, Percy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Percy.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to say thank you very much for including me in this talk. It's been very information. This is amazing what you're doing. I've got my own indoor produce farm, aeroponics, in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada here. I found out about this through Dr. Glenn Hall. And I do hold myself to a very high standard. I don't go through government standards because it is a top down and it's a bunch of BS as far as I'm concerned. I use ionic minerals. So when I feed my plants, I use one of two different things. I use ionic minerals, which are have been tested by this producer, and they're better than organic, which is, you know, debatable. But when you're using minerals, I tend to lean towards minerals rather than organic. And I find that there is a very big increase in what the plants produce for mineral-rich nutrients with that type of feed. I also use something called Ormus, and I'm not sure if you've looked into what Ormus is. But
yeah. So what's the question, Percy? Just in the interest of time. Yeah.
So sorry. My question is, how can I be involved to help you in order to show results on better grown plants, better grown produce for people to consume as medicine, maybe more than food?
Yeah, so ultimately, I think when I shared with you our GMO research, right?
Yeah.
We literally mapped out the molecular pathways of C1 metabolism, and we looked at what genetic engineering. So if the goal is, if you want to show, okay, hydroponically grown foods with this input of ionic minerals is better than other foods. Let's say that's a research program, okay?
Yeah.
Set up time in the link that we sent out, okay?
Right.
And you can define a research project, and we'll put together a proposal.
Okay.
And then you can go, quote unquote, market it to your community people, and they can support it. Because what we have done with Cytosolve is literally created an MIT and a Harvard for pennies on the dollar.
Wow. Okay.
That's what we've done. I published with all those major guys, but they take $100 million, 10x, 100x more than that you need to do research, okay? Or 1,000x more. And all of these big institutions have become research grant engines, not research engines.
Yeah.
They keep wanting to get grant money, grant money, grant money. And if you saw the recent, about a month ago on the front page of the New York Times, there are all these, you know, wealthy billionaires who've been funding these research institutions. And now they're waking up and saying, okay, I gave you money and you put a building in my name, but did you solve cancer? Did you solve this? You've done nothing. In fact, you're putting out fraudulent research. So
True.
These billionaires are stealing professors away, and they're creating their own institution. The problem is they're still in the big pharma model. So what we are doing here was with Cytosolve, we have our own research institution, citizen science research institution, but we still need funding because we can't do everything for free, but we do stuff at 1/1000th of the cost. So I'll give you an example. What you just said, we could put together a research program. And if the goal is, okay, we want to show that hydroponically grown foods with ionic minerals, you know, and you can choose a specific area for these vegetable types, right,
Yeah.
are better. That would be a research program. We frame the program with cytosol. We could show why, what's different, you say, and come up with an actual paper. We publish, we get out there. That's the infrastructure we've created. So, but it needs you guys to also do the work in setting up the meeting, following up, but you guys get to be sort of the local citizen scientists and the local sort of academic researcher institution. You see, we're enabling you guys to do that with our technology. So
That's amazing.
I would set up the time, Percy, with us, but come very clear on what you want to do research on. Okay? Thanks.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go to Nikki Darwin. The
Yes.
last one I got to take, guys, with Brad, and that's it, unfortunately. But you guys can set up time if you have an idea. Go ahead, Nikki.
Yes, I want to be part of creating the framework for eggs, because I'm from British Columbia in Canada, and we make 6-person chicken coops. Because people in most cities are allowed to have 6 chickens as long as they don't have a rooster. But my research has found that the chicken feed that you buy at the stores is not fit for them because it creates major polyunsaturated fatty acids in your body. And there is a lack of choline in eggs. So with in helping set up this framework, I would really like to help set up the framework. That's what I'm saying. What do I do to be part of that?
So what you can do is there's a link that was just put out there, and I'll put it up again.
Is that in the chat?
Yeah, I'm going to put it up right now in the chat again. You can literally right now, Nikki, I just put it out to everyone, right? It's called setting up meeting, right? Follow-up meeting, okay?
Okay.
And so so I just sent it to you. Just click on that link. I just sent it up to you, setting up follow-up meeting. And it's literally a calendar that locks into certain open times on my calendar with our research team. And you can literally be part of that, okay?
Okay, the calendar. Okay, I see it now. Thank you very much.
Yep. So the goal of this meeting was to inspire you guys. We have this amazing standard. We have cytosol, and you guys can get involved. Let's finish up with Brad. Thanks, Nikki. Let's go to Brady Crow. Go ahead, Brady.
Hello, nice to meet you guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, I'm on my way to my community garden right now. I'm at the gas station, and I build community gardens just pro bono for free, and we're kicking butt, and just very excited to volunteer and get to know you guys. And I'm hoping to link up and find the best channel for communication for like volunteers and networking. And the town hall with Tiffany Cianci is coming up with Jill Stein on the 16th. I told her about you, and she said that she's interested. She wants to know more about you. So I'm wondering if your team has made contact with her.
Where are you out of, Brady?
I'm in Texas.
Oh, you are? Okay, so we'll connect you up. If you put your message right to me, we'll connect you up with Ryan Shea there, okay? Who's our leader in Texas.
Right on. Perfect. Okay. Much appreciated. So where can I see that message, by the way? Is it in the chat or?
Yeah. So you'll see where it says you go to the chat and you just send it right to me. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I got you.
I will send you. Let me say, where are you?
Because I've tried communicating through the chat in these meetings a couple times, and it seems like there's no one there. I'm just I don't know what the rules are surrounding the chat.
Well, there's always somebody here. So I'm going to have Emily reach out to you right now. Okay, thanks. Emily, can you reach out to Brady and give him my email? I'm going to make Brady. Emily, I just made you co-host. Emily, if you can reach out to Brady and give him my email contact, thanks. So Brady, Emily will be giving you my email contact. All right, everyone. By the way, we have to be aware, I think someone mentioned Jill Stein and these people. We have to be aware that 99% of the climate change stuff is bullshit. All of it is, okay? So the Green Party's entire program is made up of nonsense. The reality is climate's always changing. The reality is the Earth is 6,000 degrees Kelvin. The reality is greenhouse gases do cause CO2 to go up, but the issue is how much, okay? And the religiosity around this, there's a bunch of videos I've done on it as a systems guy, that you find out that what we really want to focus on is pollution, okay? The Green New Deal and the Paris Accords allow China to double their pollution to 22 million carbon metric tons. India is allowed to double their pollution. So all these bullshitters, we're talking about the Green New Deal and the Green Party, they're the dumbest people on the planet. They're highly, highly hypocritical people. When it came to Israel and Palestine, they walked the line a little bit, right? When it becomes so overt what's going on in Palestine, then they act like they're anti-Zionists, right? Except our movement and my run for office, de facto, with all due respect, the Green Party is one of the most hypocritical organizations on the planet. They are not really concerned about the earth. They really don't want to talk about pollution, when the fact is that climate is constantly changing. The entire Paris Accords is a scam, which was to create a $100 billion green fund using American taxpayer dollars to pay off corrupt people. And I think, Emily, if you can find the climate change video, and Brady and people who haven't seen those videos should go see them. And I also recommend everyone go to Truth, Freedom, Health. We have I think it's an 8-part free course. It has these 8 to 10 potent videos that we hit climate science, immune system, GMOs, all of it. When you go through those videos, you won't be bamboozled anymore. You won't be talking about Booby Kennedy or Trump or Jill Stein or Cornel West. All these guys are set up by the establishment to manipulate people back into the establishment. Our movement, Truth, Freedom, Health, is the only movement that not only offers direct solutions to people, but really calls out what it's going to take to win. And that's a bottoms-up movement. And that's why, this thing that we talked about food, if you notice, I must have used the word bottoms up at least 100 times today, okay? So that's what this is about. This is about us building a bottoms-up movement. Because right now, if you look globally, these people hate you. I mean, they really hate you. And life expectancy is going down in the United States. The amount of savings people have in their bank account has precipitously dropped. The average American only at a good day has $400 in their bank account. Obesity is increasing. In a few years, 4.2 billion people on this planet will be obese. So if you go to the end of understanding all of this, those in power actually hate you. They really hate you. And so I want you to leave this and ask yourself, people I've seen on the internet say, oh, Dr. Shiva, I like him, but he can't win. Okay? That logic you have to really think about. What do they mean? They are governing this entire system based on a plantation attitude. The plantation attitude is all of these people up here have no regard for life. They actually hate you. And our movement, my run for the presidency, is the first time the American people have had someone who comes bottoms up from nothing and who actually offers solutions. So the real question about winning is you as the individual recognizing that the real win is getting off their plantation, getting off this concept of lesser of evils, and actually recognizing that the real winning comes when you move out of that plantation framework into saying, what is the principled stand I'm going to do here and now? So my point is, let's take a stand while you still can. And that's what our movement's about. It's not about winning on their grounds, because they will always cheat elections. They always win. They've been winning and they've been abusing people for a long time. This is about no different than being in a relationship where someone's abusing someone over and over and over again. And someone's saying, well, what can I do? What to do? You know, this is the best I can get. So our movement, Truth, Freedom, Health, is the only force on the planet which is providing people a real alternative. The science of system science, real solutions, training people in leadership to get off that plantation mindset. That's what this is about. And the cool thing is we actually have revolutionary solutions. Cytosol, Systems Health, Clean Food Certified. So get involved. As you leave this meeting tonight, just recognize this is just one of those revolutionary solutions. But no real revolutionary solution is ever going to come out through their mainstream. They will always co-opt it. They'll always put people in golden handcuffs. So the only alternative we have is a bottoms-up movement. It's a hard place to be because I've been given many opportunities to be co-opted. Many, many opportunities. And the reality is any of the solutions we have, because they are real solutions, when you work with the devil, they never get out there. So the only solution is us. It'll take a little bit longer, but it's the only way out. And anyone coming from, quote unquote, other movements, if they don't learn system science, they're going to always be opportunists. System science and the understanding of truth, freedom, health is the only way not to prevent you from becoming an opportunist and being co-opted. All right. So anyway, I hope this was valuable, but I wanted to let you guys know about that because our campaign is moving now into getting on the ground. And our messaging is very, very clear. These people hate you. Don't doubt it. Booby Kennedy, Trump, Biden, Jill Stein, I'm sorry to say, Cornel West, who they pull out once in a while, they never, ever address the real issues. There have always been wings of one wing of the establishment, one fringe group, either Bernie Sanders, right, who's completely suckers everyone up to Hillary Clinton. Our movement stands on its own 2 feet with our own solutions. People deserve the best. So the mindset we're trying to change is winning. What does winning mean? Does winning meaning, oh, well, he can't win? That's not winning. We win when people choose our movement, decide to support us. They may quote unquote win elections, but when you decide to vote for me and when you decide to write us in, you're making a decision that you want to be part of a movement to win the war against them. People have been losing actually by taking that lesser of evils attitude. Lifespan is going down, obesity is going up, people's savings are going down while they keep destroying our health and our wealth. That's what's really going on. All right, guys. All right, Brady, look forward to speaking with you and others. Again, there's a link there. We can't do all of it here, but we can have separate conversations. And same with you, Nikki, and others. Be well, everyone. Thank you.